Yeah. Hey guys, what up? This is Indigenous Destiny and welcome back to my channel. It's springtime now and I've been doing a lot of reading. I've just been feeling like it's a new year. I really want to get my personal development on and learn some new skills to be able to apply to the things that I'm doing now. That being said, one of the books that I started with was Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, as well as Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. And I think I've read about 6 books so far, some by Seth Godin and a couple other authors, but we'll get to those later. So today I want to talk about Outliers and Blink because these books, I'm telling you, like, they're so freaking phenomenal. Like, Malcolm Gladwell is such an amazing writer, and I feel like he is because he comes from so many different cultures. You know, he's Jamaican, but then his dad is, I think, British, but then he's from Canada, but his mom is literally like first generation from Jamaica, and he was a business and science writer for the Washington Post. And so Outliers is the story of success, and it's totally a different like thought process on the idea of success. Because one thing that he talks about in the book is that, you know, when you're an underdog and you become extremely successful and extremely rich, how people want to tell your story because it's like, oh, the underdog, you know, the person who was poor, the person who didn't have this, you know, became successful. When in reality, what he does is he goes through fine tooth and comb, you know, different people's lives and says, okay, because of this pinpoint, or because of this one conversation they had with this person, or because of this opportunity and them taking the time, and because they were born at this time and place in this specific city, they were able to gain this certain opportunity. And it's really cool and really interesting. And he really says that, you know, in on the upside and on the flip side. And what I mean by that is he says, you know, even people that are extremely intelligent, that are even presented with opportunities, it doesn't equate to success because of this, and this. So that's like another really cool thing. So he talks about prodigies and how technically there's no such thing as prodigies because of X, Y, Z. I don't want to give like any of the book away because it's so good. But then even talks about certain athletes and how if you look at certain sports, almost all the top athletes within that sport, their birthdays are all around the same time, around the same month, around the same, you know, days and everything because of X, Y, Z. So it's definitely like a really interesting book. And it's a very easy read. So if you're worried about like, oh my gosh, is this going to be like a textbook? It's totally not at all. Like, it's honestly this cool guy taking people's different stories. Like, for instance, he talks about the Beatles. He talks about Bill Gates. He talks about, you know, Rockefeller and all these other people who have these success stories and are from different backgrounds, different heritages, everything. It's really cool because also he talks about based on the culture or where you live, you can be extremely good at something or you can be extremely terrible at something, and how in some cultures, how they're better than Americans at certain things, and why that is, not necessarily because one culture is smarter than the other, but because of, you know, their lifestyle and, you know, the things that they've done generation after generation and what that equates to. So the book was just phenomenal. I loved it. So that's this one right here, Outliers, The Story of Success. The next book I read by him is Blink. And this one is Blink, The Power of Thinking Without Thinking. And it's kind of an interesting thing. You know, I feel like when anybody starts to talk about like conscious mind and your subconscious mind and all this kind of stuff, it starts to get a little, not like Twilight Zone-y, but you know, you just assume it's going to be some crazy deep psychological book where you're just going to start reading and immediately fall asleep or just like daze out. But this wasn't one of those books at all. This book essentially is, you know, the decisions, the rapid decisions that we make in our mind about people, about places, about situations. You know, he talks about everything from police officers and their conscious mind telling them, okay, shoot this person or don't shoot this person, and why that is. He talks about, you know, he has these 2 friends, and they're these women who are professional taste testers, and they write about different restaurants and the different foods, and they can literally taste a cracker and tell, you know, what kind of wheat or grain they used and what batch it came from and what farm it came from. Like he says, you know, within the blink of an eye, they can taste something and immediately tell, you know, what's there. And so he talks about, you know, regardless whether we're trained or not, the decision, the subconscious decisions that we make, and based on everything that we've learned throughout life, how we make those decisions. And then, you know, once you've become trained to look for certain things, he calls it thin slicing. And once you're able to cut through like everything else and just look at A, B, and C or certain sections for what it is, you're able to make a more educated decision of what you're looking for. So it's a really, really cool book. It kind of sounds a little weird at first. And in the beginning, it's kind of slow. And he's talking about, you know, this thing, I think it's called a curios or something, some kind of statue. And at first you're kind of like, okay, where is he going with this? He's talking about a statue. He's talking about the Getty. And it's weird because in the beginning of his books, please read the introductions at the beginning of his books. I'm one of those people, I'm so guilty for literally just skipping by the introduction and the prelude and everything else and going like right to chapter 1 and just reading. Because ain't nobody got time for that, honestly. But whatever foreword or whatever he has in the beginning, please read it. Because honestly, he's one of those writers. He'll talk about something there and then 3 chapters later, like reference it and then be like, boom, boom, these are 2 different situations, but this is how this happened. And then boom, 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 chapter 6, and he'll reference something from chapter 1, and then that'll connect to chapter 6, and that'll, you know, touch on something in the foreword or whatever. So whatever introductions he has, honestly, just bite the bullet and read them. They're only a couple pages long, and his books aren't even that long. They look kind of thick, but honestly, it's like the pages have really not that many words. It's probably like a 12 or 13 point font. And another cool thing that I love is he really gets you involved in his books. So he'll give you a chart and say, okay, read through this chart, you know, really, really quickly. Boom, did you notice anything? And you're like, I wasn't even paying attention. And he goes, oh, it's okay if you didn't, because this is what actually happened. Boom, 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 boom. And because of this, that's why this is. And you're like, oh. So his books are actually, you know, pretty interactive when you start to get into them, especially with Blink. Blink is very interactive because it's about, you know, human nature and how we think and how we process thoughts. So I loved this book. It was like every other day that I think I read this one in 3 days. I was just like going through it like crazy. This one I think I read in 2 days. They were so good. And it was like I couldn't go to bed. I was just kept reading them and wanting to like learn more about myself and learn more about what I had been doing wrong and good and everything else. So thank you guys for watching my channel. Don't forget to subscribe, comment below, like the video if you want to see more. I'll be posting more as usual. And you guys have a good day. Bye.